Welcome to Return to Roots, a Mill to Vet podcast where the veteran community shares their experiences during transition by narrating their stories
and highlighting the resources that shaped their journey to a successful reintegration into the community.
Ring the bell to stay up to date and follow us on all social media.
Attention, mature audience, listener discretion is advised. Now, let's proceed with the episode.
Return to Roots podcast. Welcome. Today we bring you Greta Hamilton. Not only is she a Air Force brat, but she also grew up in the military. She retired and now has been part of the VA system for over a decade. With all that amazing experience, without further ado, here is Greta Hamilton. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Yogi. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. So, please tell us a little bit about your story when it comes to your dad. I want to share with the whole class.
I'm the youngest of seven, and I grew up, as I said, in a military family. In fact, I was born in Guam, and we spent a lot of time in California, Florida, and ultimately North Carolina was our last stop. But I grew up as a dependent, and it was a natural transition for me, as I thought, to just join the military. And joined the military, did 20 years, and ironically, my father and I were actually in the same career field, which was when I entered was a non-traditional career field, was aircraft and munitions maintenance. So we had that bond together, and I did that for 20 years. And after I retired from the military, I kind of took a year off to kind of find myself. And I always wanted, as we had discussed, is to join the VA. I had saw what benefits that my father had gotten as they bought their first house with the VA loan. My father went to school, further education with the VA loan, but also the story, if you've never heard it, I encourage everybody, Max Cleland. Before VA was even a cabinet position, he was one of the earlier heads up of VA. And his story was just so amazing to me. He was wounded, ended up being a quadriplegic out of the Vietnam War. And his story of how he overcame and the things that he did for the VA that I saw growing up as a kid, that was just amazing to me.
Wow, that's incredible. So in that time where you took a year off, what are the things that you did to kind of find your path to where you are now, which we haven't gotten there yet, but what are the things you did within that year?
Well, I tried different things, which I don't recommend that everybody does. You should have, and I recommend everybody, have a clear path of what you want to do, because that time's going to go quickly. As I look back now, I've been out of the military as long as I was in. And luckily, as I said, I knew that I wanted to be in the VA. So the hiring process was a little bit more difficult. And now it's a little bit easier and it's a little bit more streamlined in order to come on with the government. So I came on as a GS7 claims examiner, and it was a wonderful job. But as you know, with the term appointment, you've got 1 to 2 years to find something, and they were encouraging us to do that. And so I found an advertisement for a job announcement for a cemetery director. So during that time, what I say for everyone, have a clear-cut path. I took a circuitous route to get to where I eventually wanted to be, but I would say to everyone that's leaving the military, do your homework. And also another thing is go toward your passion. A lot of times we want to go toward what makes us the most money, but I say the thing that find that job that makes you want to get up out of bed in the morning and go to it, do the best that you can do.
That is so true. So let me take it back even further, because you made a good point. That year goes really fast. How did you prepare before you exited the military to find that direction, so to speak, in which you were going to go in when you got out?
To be quite honest with you, I didn't have a clear-cut path. I thought for a time I was going to work with my sister in her business. Didn't like that. I worked with another friend at a house building company. Didn't like that. Worked with Enterprise Car Rental for a while, and that didn't work out either. So I just from my mistakes and from what I would tell people what they should do is that find out what your passion is. Do your homework and don't enter into something blindly, just taking jobs. He said, I was one of those anomalies that knew that I wanted to be in VA, so I was applying for jobs with the government, and it takes a long time to come on with the government. So in the meantime, I was doing those things that weren't exactly part of my passion. I hope I'm answering your question because I didn't really prepare.
Yeah.
I was one of those people that was sitting in the transition assistance program, and all I could think was, I just can't wait to get out of here and start the new chapter of my life. Not the thing to do.
And
Listen to very carefully about the things that they tell you regarding your benefits, which I'm now lately finding out the things that are available to me as being an honorably discharged veteran, because I didn't know anything about the job I'm doing now in the National Cemetery. Didn't know what the National Cemetery was, even though I worked next door to one in my last duty assignment. So I wasn't one who did my homework. I think I could be a lot farther along in what I'm doing now, although I've done well. But imagine where I could be had I have done that homework and pursued my passion much more quicker than I would have if I had not taken a year off or taken that time to apply. Because you can apply for a government job while you're on active duty, because it's going to take a minute for them to get around to interviewing you and bringing you on and doing those security checks. So if you're in that closing window of your retirement, I tell people, and the government is what you want to do, apply.
so, with that in mind, I want to ask and shift a little bit and say, what books and or podcasts would you recommend to our individuals from the amount of experience that you've had and from everything that you've seen both in the military, being a service member that transitioned yourself, and now outside of the military? What would be one of those things that you would recommend for everybody to
You know,
be prepared?
I read those typical books of leadership and those things about organizing your time. And I would say they're good books. Don't get me wrong. Some people say that you can't teach leadership, you can't teach the skills to be successful. But I want to turn that a bit. I don't read so much as leadership books as I read books of history and people in difficult situations. And any book that's by John Meacham, I'm going to read because it taught leadership. It talks about strong leaders. Anything about from Kearns Goodwin, where her book on the team of rivals about Lincoln and his bringing together a team of a cabinet that way they had nothing in common and different ideas about how the government should run during the Civil War. Excellent book, excellent book. Or anything by Hampton Sides. He writes some of the best historical books about people in difficult situations, like On Desperate Ground, where it talks about the frozen chosen, and it goes through the different leadership styles that got the Marines and the Army through that difficult period. So I'm more of a historian than person. I mean, the leadership books are good, but when you can read about what somebody did in a difficult situation and you can learn from those mistakes. But anything by Hampton Sides, anything by John Meacham, anything by Kearns Goodwin, I would say read if they have a historical bent.
That's beautiful.
Absolutely wonderful. So, what would you tell your younger self
My younger
from
self,
now to that younger self newly exiting and in that last year? Because I actually love the fact that you pointed out that you should listen to those benefits and listen to all those resources that are there for you when you're just so excited to get out. That's so incredible. And finding your passion. So, you now looking back, what would you tell yourself at that time?
first of all, follow your dream, no matter how crazy it sounds to anybody else. Follow your passion, no matter, because if you follow your passion, you're going to be successful. The money will come, the promotions will come. Those are going to come because people are going to look at you and say, that person enjoys what they do. Every day, and people, I work in a cemetery and I've done this for 12 years. It's my passion. Helping people in difficult situations is my passion. Listening to people and making sure that they can get, because I don't like people to get caught up in, sometimes we can be very bureaucratic as being a government agency because we're big. But what I think is so important is that people are able to help people and to help them navigate through one of the difficult times in their life, which is to bury a loved one. So what I would tell my younger self is do your homework, follow your passion, don't let anybody take you off of it. And no matter how crazy it sounds, it's going to make sense because those are going to be the jobs that you want. I see people that absolutely hate their jobs, and I feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
I really do. And I said, as my younger self, do your homework. And I'd even take it back to, I wish I'd have done more homework when I entered the military as to what I wanted to do. A lot of times our jobs get chosen for us, but I had an opportunity to talk to my father about what this would entail. And he told me, it's going to be difficult. And that's all he told me. And he said, if you ever find out that it's not you, get out. And that's the only thing he ever told me. That's the only advice. He didn't steer me off of it, but he said, if you ever find it's not you, get out. And that's why I would tell people that if you find that something is not you, follow the path you're meant to, and you'll, like they say, you'll never work a day in your life. And I truly believe when I come in this cemetery every day, I mean, though it's a cemetery, it's what I was meant to do.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's dive into it. So nobody really goes in there as they're transitioning out of the military or before the military, and their primary focus is, I want to get buried in a national cemetery, right? Um, but with that, right, being one of the benefits that we earn as transitioning service member, what would you say, or how would you say that plays a huge deal into our benefits?
I'll say this and I'll turn the story a bit. We are not the people no one wants to talk at an outreach. I see people, as I say, nobody's getting out of this alive. You got to talk to me. And you have to give it humor in a lot of ways. And like I said, and I tell people, we're the last benefit you're ever going to use. We are literally the last one. And so I soften it in a way and I tell them that the only thing that you never have to talk to me again. Just make sure that you have your discharge paperwork and somebody knows where it is, because we're going to do that heavy lifting for you at that time. We'll help you schedule, we'll help you get through it, because you don't need that bureaucracy when you're leaving the final days on earth. But like I said, we're not popular. I mean, if you see us at an outreach, people will go to the other side of the street not to talk to us. But I say to that veteran, and COVID made it real for a lot of people. We had more people walking through the door to ask us, how can I be buried here? How much does it cost? It doesn't cost you a thing. You've already done it. Your honorable service is all you need to do. So, and that's what we tell people when you're transitioning. Listen to those briefs, especially about what the National Cemetery has to offer for you and also your dependents as well, because spouses, dependent children are also eligible. I hope I answered your question.
You did beautifully. And then, so I wanted to elaborate a little bit more about that. You talk about the requirement is to be honorably discharged, right?
Mhm.
And then from there, how does the process work in order to be prepared to be able to have that benefit in case something does happen? Because as you mentioned, I mean, nobody gets out of this, alive, right? So accidents happen, and we gotta be always ready. That is one of the things that the military does teach us, right? Prepare your will, your final things. But once we leave the military, we kind of put that in the back burner and we don't think about it. How can, for example, me, how can I get myself prepared and so that my family doesn't have that burden when the time comes?
First of all, let the family know that's your intent to be buried there, and have your discharge paperwork available, because that's what you're going to need to show that you served, that they can get their hands on it. We also have a program called a pre-needs program. If your family wants to, you don't need to do this. If you served honorably and you've done over 2 years or you retired, this is not a requirement. But for if you're a reservist or a National Guardsman and you're not sure if you're eligible, because if you weren't called up, or if you didn't serve on active duty, you're not eligible at this time. So what they can do is apply to our pre-needs program. You can call any national cemetery and we'll help you get through that process where they'll go through look at your eligibility to make sure that you are eligible for the National Cemetery. So the best thing to do is let your family know your wishes and to make sure that they can get a copy of your DD 214 or something that shows you served honorably on active duty.
And then, is there a waiting time that you have to do? I know some of the national cemeteries were starting to get full to an extent. Is there a waiting list that you have to go through? Is there a process that you have to do?
There is no waiting list for any open cemetery. In fact, I can take Miramar as an example. Right now, we have burial sites that are going to take us into 2060, and we still have not opened up the spots that we have. This cemetery presently is on about 45 acres. At its full expansion, it's going to be 300 and something acres, a little over 300 acres. So there's plenty of space. Everybody worries, God, are you going to run out of space? The possibility is there. We'll never see it. We won't live to see it here. As you know, I don't know if you're from this area, and it's a closed San Diego Bay on one side, and it's got the Pacific Ocean on the other side. It's beautiful, but it's closed. And unless there's a burial, like you bury a spouse or a child, there is no more open space. And so I can't, if I could open it up, if the Navy would give me more land to build, I could do that. But that's closed. So when families come and you want to go to a closed cemetery, unless someone is disinterred from there, there's no space for you. But what the government does as well, and our initiative for the National Cemetery Administration, is that every veteran our goal is that we'll be within 70 miles of a national cemetery if they choose to be buried in. So that's the goal across the nation.
Well, that's nice. That's beautiful.
If you're looking at, so right now we have space in most of our cemeteries, but it just depends on where you want to go.
Awesome.
Would you say that someone just getting out of the military, starting their life, they're taking their family, they're moving off base and finding their location, their new hometown, would you say that's a good time to come connect with you? Because again, no one's getting out of this alive. Is that too soon?
No, it's never too soon. And it's never too soon. And I don't want to give funeral homes a plug, but I have to say this. It doesn't hurt because these prices are continuing to go up. I mean, it's not too early to decide if I want to be cremated or if I want to be placed in ground. I know it's not a comfortable subject, but it's not too early to decide how you want to be prepared and where you want to be. And a lot of funeral homes can help you with that because the prices continue to go up. And once you lock yourself in, you're locked in. And we're always going to be here. Everything that we do at the National Cemetery, as far as opening and closing at the grave, the headstone, that's all free. And I mean, there's, I tell people your money's no good here. You just come here. I said everything we do is free. So if anybody ever tells you that we're charging you anything, it's not the National Cemetery Administration. One of the things that kind of irritates me in a way is that people will latch onto our name or latch onto our reputation and make veterans feel that they're a part of us. So if anyone is asking you for money or charging you for anything, it's not a national cemetery benefit. So know that everything that we do is free.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah. In fact, I talked to a couple a few months ago that paid $20,000. And somebody in the group, one of the veteran leaders, was really concerned and said, go talk to this couple. And they said, well, we don't want to talk about it. We're very happy. We've planned our arrangements. And I think, just as you said, they attached themselves to your name because they thought they were. So that, I didn't know that was a big thing, actually, now.
And it's a big thing. And a lot of cemeteries, national cemeteries, run into that problem where they'll attach themselves and the veterans will think that because you don't pay for a plot here or a niche. You just don't. You don't pay for us to open or close anything here. And the headstones are free. And those are great benefits. Like I said, when you're young and like I said, you're 10 feet tall and you're bulletproof, you're not thinking about that.
100%.
Those are significant costs that families don't think about at their time of need.
So Greta, let me ask you this. You talked earlier about discovering your life's purpose. What advice would you give to both young and mature listeners on how to find or redefine their life purpose? Because a lot of us, once we leave the military, right, we lose our identity, we lose who we are, and then we have a really hard time of finding out what we really want to do, right? And I think that's honestly the most common theme and that we have an issue with, especially when it comes to like finding the job and finding what we really want to do. What advice would you give to that?
Well, the first thing I would say, and this ties again in doing your homework, what makes you happy? I mean, what are the things that brings you joy? Some people it's money, some people it's position, sometimes it's leadership, and those things, yeah, sometimes they can't bring you joy. But what are you good at? And that's what I try to do with the people the youngsters that have come on with us at the National Cemetery, even the people that are older that are transitioning, because we have a lot. We're like 90% veterans in VA and even higher in NCA. So when they come, I said, you may not want to be a cemetery representative forever. You look for your passion, what you're good at, and somebody who can mentor you. I mean, if you see someone that is doing what you want to do, latch on to that person and say, how did you get there? What did you do to get there? And that's part of the homework. But the biggest thing is that I would say, unless you're going specifically for money and prestige, or it depends on what you want. But in any case, a mentor, doing your homework, don't just launch it because you're wasting time when when you haven't laid out some kind of a game plan as how to get there. And the things that I need to read, the things that I need to study. And that's where, I down when I was transitioning that. I really didn't. I knew where I wanted to go, but I didn't know where I wanted to be in VA. There's a lot going on in VA. There's a lot going on in VA. There's a lot of career paths that you could take in VA. And I really didn't do my homework. I just knew I wanted to get in. And fortunate for me, the director program fell into my lap. Because when I saw it, I said, this is what I've been prepping for 20 years in the military. You had to know budget. You had to have leadership. You had to know facilities, maintenance. And you had to be able to do communications. And I had 20 years of that. And I think the interview was like no interview. I breezed through it. It was almost, and I'm going to tell you this, and then, like I said, it's not bragging in a way. One of the interviewers just stopped writing. She said, oh, I'm sorry. She said, and then she told me, she's like, I want to work for you. I'm like, I'm blown away.
Beautiful.
But it was because I was prepared for it. I prepared for the interview as well. I was prepared for the job in the 20 years because we come out in the military thinking that we don't have skills, but we have a lot of skills that are applicable to what people are looking for. Even if people are looking for people with discipline, people that can think out of the box. And the teaches that from day one, how to problem solve, discipline, those are the things that are important to employers in all realms. But when you bring that homework of having research and that passion of coming to that job, I mean, I say to my guys, the sky's the limit for you.
Wow, that was beautiful.
And I truly believe it. I truly believe it. I mean, just do your homework. Do your homework. Any job that you're going for, veterans will want to use me for it at work. And then I said, tell me something about the job. Send me the job description so I can see it, so I can talk to it. And a lot of times I'll tell them that this may not be, you have to be honest with people when you're mentoring people as well. This may not be the job for you.
Yes.
You're not getting this from your resume. You're going to have to rewrite this resume because you will not be competitive. So get your resume ready. And you may have 5 or 10 resumes. You can have a copy that needs to fit that job description. And that's what we do at Wrong as veterans when we're transitioning. We get that one resume that speaks all this military jargon that nobody understands. You've got to be able to convert it because we've got skills that people are knocking down the door for. So that's what I said. Homework, work on that resume, have someone read it, because I will read, tell people, I'll look at what you're sending me. And also when you're asking for somebody for a reference, and I'll say this to my transitioning self, don't blindside them. Let them know that because they may not give you the reference you want. So
Yes.
that's what I would say.
Or they might just write it very poorly too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
have really great intentions. Yeah.
absolutely. And they may not feel about you like you thought they felt about you. They feel that your skills are the skills that want to shine. Because I'm nice to everybody. But if you ask me something, I'm going to tell you, this may not be for you. I'll help you, but and I can give you an example of one person that joined us and wanted to move on. And I read the resume and I read the job description. And I said, you're not going to compete well because I don't get this from your resume. I can tell them what I know from knowing you from 6 months. You're a self-starter, you're sharp, you're good with customers, but this is not the bulk of what they're asking for. So again, it all goes back to putting the work in with your resume and with talking with people about what your skills are.
I'd like to go back and have you
I'm sorry.
once again. I'd like to go back and have you once again. Are you able to hear?
Yeah, speak a little louder.
Can you hear me? Is that better?
Yeah, I'm having a little trouble here.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I'd like to go back and have you once again talk about passion. How can someone find their passion?
I'm sorry. How can someone do
How can someone find their passion?
You know, for me, it was like a 20-year journey for me. I even bought books on it, about, finding your passion. But it's normally when someone points it out to you. And someone pointed out to me, what my skills were. I knew what I liked. But I needed that validation, but, it's hard to find. I guess I'm kind of confusing purpose with passion, but more so, I know what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about history. I'm passionate about people. You have to list those things up. What are you passionate about? You have to really kind of get within yourself to know what is. You have to study yourself, and this took 20 years of discovering what my passion is and what my purpose is, and that's two different things to me. What you're called to do is a purpose for me. Passion is something that kind of light up for me. And so you have to learn to bring those together. Okay, this is what I know I'm called to be a cemetery director, and my passions line up with that. Your purpose, and I hope I'm not just getting convoluted, but purpose and passion have to line up. My purpose in life is to help people. And my purpose in life is to make sure that people are educated on certain things, particularly our system of the government. My passion is history. Working in a national cemetery, we're full of history. And people think we're a place of just death and of sorrow. But there are a lot of veterans here and their family members that have done some amazing things. After their life in the military. So I'm excited about that. Whenever we have someone that we inter, I always check every, what we call web logic. I look at every one of them when they come in to see and it gives you a history, a brief history of what they did in their lives. And sometimes I'll go and I'll Google people and I'm amazed at what I find. So a sense of history, I people, I'm drawn to talking to people and I'm interested in people. That marries up again with my purpose. I love talking to people and I love problem solving. There's a lot of problems that come with this job and it can burn you out if you don't have the passion to do it. So what I say to people when you're looking for what your passion is, sit down and really write out, what am I good at? What does that line up with? What kind of job does that line up with? What job do I see out there? The job that I'm going for, does that marry up with my passion? Those are what I would say to someone if you're looking for that. And I don't want people to think that, money is not good and money is not evil and positions are not good. I'm not saying that. But for me, for those that are looking, because after the military, one thing I was looking for is I wasn't looking to lead anybody. I wanted to be in that cubicle. Then I just wanted to process claims. I could see doing that today. But as I said, the director's job came, and with that, and as my passion lined up with which can be a very difficult job, more responsibility came, more promotions came because I like it. I like what I do. But I could have been happy in a cubicle. And I could have done that for the next 20 years and gone on to Social Security and been done. But I say, and I hope I'm not being very convoluted, is that when you passion marries up with your purpose in the right job, and you got to be looking for it. You got to be looking for it. You can't expect someone to come and just drop a job in your lap.
Got to do the work.
It's not going to happen these days. But, and I think, I was amazed. I met a Marine. She had left the military, and she's working at one of the major film producing, and I don't know the company. I can't remember the company, but in LA. And I think that is just amazing. You talk about an amazing job and a passion that lined up with what she wanted to do. I said, God, I want your job. Because what she did was she went out to military folks that wanted to get into contracting, particularly retired veterans that wanted to do business with the film industry. And that married up with her passion. And it was very lucrative to her. But and I just don't, and I really want to be careful about people. I mean, if money's you, if position is you, I can't say this, then go for that. But if you want to be happy in what you do and satisfied in what you do, make sure it fits what you're going to do.
And like you said, the money's going to come. When you're living your passion, when you're doing your purpose, the money's going to come. So,
it will come. I think I am more successful now than I was ever in the military because I'm aligned with what I'm supposed to do. Don't get me wrong, the military taught me a lot, it gave me a lot. And I was able to transition those into what I do now because this is the best job I've ever had. And I tell people that all the time. It's the best job I've ever had.
So where can people find you?
They can find me. Well, I'm at Marion National Cemetery. Always walking around. People kind of know Marion National Cemetery, and it's just if you just type in Marion National Cemetery, just type it in, and you can find me. You can call the cemetery as well. I don't know if you want contact information or if that would be helpful, but if you just Google Marion National Cemetery and ask for Greta. One thing I tell folks is that don't shield. As a director, we're busy. And there's a lot that goes on, but if someone wants to talk to me, if it's a family member, then don't shield me. I will come out and I will talk to you. I mean, it doesn't have to be about bears, any question that you have. So I try to be out. So that's where I am. I mean, if you have questions about burials, then walk in. We'll sit down, we'll talk with you. If you have burials about questions about your benefits, come in, we'll sit and we'll talk with you. And that's what we're here for.
Greta, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast and for sharing this time with us and for teaching us so much.
I was so about being relevant because it's been a long time since I transitioned. But I tell you, it's I envy the young folks coming out now because truly, with all these cliches, the world is your oyster. Because there are things out there, because you're coming out with some skills that you don't even realize that you have, that people are clamoring to get. So, I mean, I tell people, don't sell yourself short. Go for what fits for you. So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But
no, you're fine.
Understand that you got a lot of skills coming out of the military. A lot of skills people really want, but you have to do your homework. No one's going to hand it to you. You've got a rich uncle or a rich aunt that's going to give you. We're going to have to work for it.
Go do the work.
I'm still looking for mine.
Me too. As my father said, I've spent your inheritance. You'll have to work. So I'm working.
Beautiful. Well, Greta, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. Is there any last words that you wanted to share with our audience?
Just thank you for the opportunity. I didn't know what to expect, but like I said, congratulations on those who are transitioning. don't let it be frightening. Don't let it be. It's a new chapter. So Christine and Yogi, thank you so much for having me today.
My pleasure.
Thank you, thank you. And you know what? I'd like to tell you that we would love to have you speak more. There are more opportunities for you. You have such wonderful, wonderful
I'm
advice to
sorry.
share. We would love to have you speak more. There are more opportunities for you to share this message right here because more people need to hear it.
Oh, I would be happy to. Like I said, mentoring is something that I love to do because, I didn't get a lot of mentoring going through in my life because, because I didn't ask. No one's going to come up to you and say, you want me to be your mentor? If they do that, that's a stalker. So please ask people. We will help you. So I'd love to. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Well, Greta, thank you again. Return to Roots podcast.
Thank
You have
so
heard
much.
it from Greta, and as always, it's not rainbows and unicorns out there. This is your transition. Make it happen. Return to Roots out. As we wrap up this compelling episode of Return to Roots, a heartfelt reminder echoes through our conversation. If you or someone you know is facing challenges, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is available 24/7. Dial 988. Your life is important, and help is just a call away.
And before we sign off, a special mention for our transitioning service members. Explore the MYTT 365 app, an valuable resource tailored to support you on your journey from the military to civilian life. With guidance, community, and tools, it is here to make your transition smoother. Remember, you are not alone. Take that courageous step forward. Thank you for being with us on Return to Roots. Stay strong, stay connected, and always move forward.
Support the Milk-Vet community by hitting that like button and subscribing for more engaging content.
Ring the bell and stay connected. Stay updated, following us on all of our social media platforms.